My name's Doug Wedell. I'm a professor at the University of South Carolina, and I'd like to talk to you about what you can do at the U. The U I'm talking about is any university that you're planning on going to. And looking at this group, it looks like we have a lot of people headed there in the near future, right? So you really want to think about how to get the most out of that experience. Don't think of the university as just a big high school. I want you to think about it much broader than that. So one way I like to think about the university is a combination of the universe and cities. So what about the universe? Well, the universe just happens to have everything in it, right? From aardvarks to zebras, from astrophysics to metaphysics, nanotechnology to developmental psychology, arts and literature to sports and leisure. You can study it all right there. Cities, are places that we do amazing things. People get together, coordinate their actions, think about how they can connect up and do stuff that no one can do by themselves. So universities are places where you can get together, connect up, and study whatever you want to study. The main thing to do then is to think big, dream big. This is where you're going to launch your career, launch your life, and think about how to get the most out of that situation. So I will be talking about 4 simple things. First is getting into classes. Second is getting out of classes. No. Getting out of town and getting into summer. All right, so what about getting into classes? Of course, universities are about going to class. Classes tend to get kind of big there, okay? So unfortunately, intro classes tend to be cookie cutter mass education stamped. In the psychology department, our Psych 101 class sometimes has as many as 350 students in it. This is not a great way to get good student-teacher interaction or to, even get to know your classmates. So lesson 1, learn the system and learn to beat the system, right? That same 101 class is offered in the evening school with several sections of just 40. Or you could go to the honors college, and that same section is capped at 25. Your experience in the big section of 350 is going to be kind of generic. If you can get yourself into the smaller section, then you're going to be able to do presentations in class, have essays, the real deal. Of course, as you move up into more specialized classes, they get smaller, and so you might be able to deal with smaller and smaller groups of folks. What I'd like you to think about is getting into a really, really small class, and that would be called independent study. So think about making sure that you do several independent studies when you're at the university. What's the independent study? Well, you get a big idea. You get an idea that's, wow, I'd really like to check this out. Maybe you're an anthropology major, so you have some notion. Then look up what professors are out there doing something that would connect to that. And then, come and see the professor and say, here's my big idea. Can we get onto it together? Now, of course, the professor may say, well, first get into my lab or get into my area and let's do some work together. But eventually you can study whatever you're really interested in. And this is just an excellent way to approach the university, because most universities are huge. You need to have that one-on-one connection. Most professors do 2, 3, 4 of these independent studies each semester. So how do we get out of classes? Well, don't skip class, right? But if you're taking 15 to 18 hours of class a semester, that means you have about 40 hours or more open, right? So get out there and get connected. There's all sorts of things happening. Student organizations, for example, you could go to a mountaineering club, check out some adventures with like-minded students, rafting, right? Or you could get into a gaming club. You could get into all sorts of intramural experiences, do a little frisbee, climb a mountain. My favorite club, just happens, I'm biased, is a sports club. And the particular one that I've been involved in the last 23 years is an Aikido club. It's a martial arts club. And you know, it's one of those places where we can talk about a particular culture, the Japanese culture, and a particular philosophy, a way of learning to find peace even in conflict. And the big bonus is you get to throw a professor around, namely me. So check out these connections. Remember, in the world, we tend to be separated by only 6 degrees of separation from somebody in China or somebody in Australia. How do we get to that 6 degrees of separation? Well, you have to network. And so when you're at the university, don't just hang with one set of people. Join these different clubs, join these different experiences, get into those networks. So getting out of town, what do I mean by this? Well, I really think that studying abroad is a great idea. This is a perfect way to experience a new culture and see our own culture from a different point of view, right? So spend some time in London or Paris or Bangkok or Tel Aviv. So what's the deal? Most universities have exchange programs. And so for the same price as going to, say, USC, you take a semester or a year somewhere else. This is something you have to plan for, though, because generally you'll do this in your junior year. And while you're doing this in your junior year, make sure that you still want to graduate in 4 years. So make sure that you've planned out what courses you'll be taking. My nephew took an exchange semester in Sri Lanka. Now, he's a political science major, and they have a totally different idea of democracy there, right? They've just come through a recent rebellion, and they also have a different economic standard there. So he was living with a family of 10. Eye-opening experiences are available through this kind of mechanism. Finally, getting into summer, we usually take the summer off, right? Think about how you can make that summer valuable to you. And what I'm talking about here is summer internships. So agencies like National Science Foundation, National Institutes of Health, National Aeronautic and Space Administration, Department of Defense, these sponsor all sorts of opportunities. So we have one, for example, that I've been associated with for 20 years at the University of South Carolina. We call it the Summer Research Experience in Brain and Cognitive Science. We take 10 different people students from around the country, bring them into the university, set them up in a lab with a professor, and they get to image the brain. They get to check out EEG. They get to look at eye movements and understand the connection of mind and brain. Now, it's not, that easy to get into these, right? We had 270 applications, and we only got to pick 10. So make sure that your application stands out. How do you do that? Well, show us exactly how you fit into the program. Do your homework and connect up. So these are just 4 different ideas about how to get the most out of your experience. You don't want to be there in the senior year of your university going, wow, I wish I had done that, right? But think about the university as a place where you're going to launch your life, right? This is the trajectory into where you're going, and you want to reach for the stars, think big, and get the most out of that experience. Thank you.